Sure. And I'll reiterate, I always reiterate the things that I always find is important. Everything is about the customer. In our mind, we make decisions on what to acquire and who we're going to acquire and when to acquire based on the needs of the customer. And, the pandemic was an interesting paradigm for companies to say, is my company digital ready? Right. So, as we started to look at companies that were buying technologies more in silos, which means they were buying standoff offerings either in RPA or in workflow or in content management, they were building it, but they noticed that there was a lot of gaps because people are working from home. And a lot of times those gaps are actually covered over the water cooler or having conversations, but you didn't have that luxury of that team collaboration. And so what we started to see was the pandemic, again, not a great episode that happened in the world today, but it made a lot of companies open their eyes and say, you know what, I really don't understand the operations of my business. I really need to. And I found that there was a lot of fat that I didn't need in my business, and there was areas I need to invest in. And what this really had people do is to really drive the need for making sure that I know exactly where I need to go in and take or prioritize my projects within my organization to make sure I continually grow and drive innovation. And so we have a very, very large research team at IBM that goes in and talks to all of our customers, talks to our competitor customers, and say, where is the focus? Where would you like us to go to help you solve those problems? And there were three different core areas that we looked at. We looked at intelligence, right? A lot of times people do, it's interesting. I myself worked at a call center one time, and I was very, very, I had my blinders on. I would just do one job, but I had no idea that what I was doing impacted the downstream effects within a business process. And 9 times out of 10, when people automate, they only automate with blinders on. They have no clue that if I automate this, what's the impact in the overall business in the downstream? And this is where intelligence is really important, to get visibility on, hey, this is what you thought your processes are. This is how your business operate, but leveraging intelligence to understand it, give recommendations on how to improve it, and then also monitor it over time. That was very, very key. They wanted to make sure that they were resilient to change. Again, moving from a out of office workspace is very different than an in office workspace. How do I adopt it? I mean, one of the biggest challenges that I always saw when we were doing RPA through a partnership with Automation Anywhere was really around, employees feeling concerned that bots were going to take over my job, and really making sure that when I go and drive change, it's a cultural change, but also it's not impacting people's jobs over time. It's actually improving jobs and the workforce that they were trying to go and do. And then really being flexible for driving productivity. And that's really, really hard, especially in large organizations. When you ask them to change the way that they do their work is very, very difficult. But how do I do it in a way that they continually stay productive and they actually drive growth within their business? And so, we partnered with a lot of different analyst firms, and we're watching this happen. But hyper automation is not really a technology; it's a discipline. It's a way of really uncovering, your business operations with many different technologies to help support it, but actually help you better understand it and help you drive efficiency over time. And so, when we looked at the pieces of the puzzle of what we needed, we had a lot of the core capabilities that were sold standalone, but we really felt that people were going to derive more value if you use it holistically together. And so things like RPA was valuable because we were able to help reduce work streams. Because I find when I was in the pandemic, my email and my calendars were always filled up, and I wasn't working an 8-hour day. I was working a 14 to 15-hour day. And it was just because I was doing a bunch of repetitive tasks that can be augmented with technology. Vice versa, we made an acquisition of process mining because, again, people want to do automation projects, but they don't know where to start. You've got a list of 10 different automation projects. What's going to give you valuable, and how do you organize it and prioritize it? And that's really why that acquisition came into place, because we had the raw capabilities to drive automation, but we wanted to help customers be able to prioritize it so that they can get the ROI. And sometimes companies don't have the money to do all 10 projects at the same time. How do they know which one is going to drive the most impact? Not only did we see this in our customers, we were seeing this in the competitive landscape. People were saying, no one's buying point solutions anymore. They're buying overall solutions to get to faster ROI and value. And so you'll see the world changing in a lot of these companies that were very focused either in, process, or very focused in robotics, or very focuses in mining, or even OCR. But we're starting to see that just those technologies by itself is not enough. And so they need to get these additional capabilities to give them the fullness so that companies are not having to acquire or build, procurement relationships with 4 or 5 vendors to get the holistic view. They're getting it from one. And whenever there's a problem, I don't need to go and ask or put support tickets for 3 different types of technologies or 3 different vendors to figure out what the core problem is. You have to have a holistic view. And this is why we pivoted to a platform message, right? We had all the raw materials, both to go and solve the automation problem, both in an IT and a business standpoint, but we were selling them as standalone. I'm happy to say today, if I look at our complete customer base, we're roughly about 45% where people are not just buying the platform for the individual components, but they're actually looking at it cross-functional. Now we're having that collaboration between business and IT working together to solve the problem. And some of the core acquisitions that we did, like Instana, to provide visibility in how you manage your infrastructure and what are the predictive areas that could go wrong, and how do you create runbooks to actually execute those resolutions within the business. We looked at RPA, not only just in the sense of business automation, which primarily that's where RPA is used, but we want to use RPA to actually go and manage those runbooks. Also, we're actually using RPA to start discovering other areas of work. So we have an agent that actually monitors how people work, and it'll give you recommendations of what types of areas you can digitize with robots. So you can relieve that 14-hour workday to an 8-hour workday because 60% or 40% of your time is on repetitive work. We looked at process mining as a component, not only just in business automation, but holistically in your business. How do I manage my infrastructure in my organization? How am I effectively, interacting with different services, not only just in the IBM, shared services network, but across Microsoft or Google that offer these different shared services? And how do they actually work holistically and ensuring that there is continuity in the way that work is actually done, but also over time, they can find better ways to drive innovation within their business. And so we've done a complete pivot in our business to not sell point solutions, but really sell a platform so that customers can get value immediately and faster. So again, because of the short time, I would say there's 3 key takeaways that I always find when we do our acquisitions, vice versa, making sure that customers are first and we're getting values. 1, automation is a priority. It's the number 1 priority in every company that we've talked to. They want to look at ways to digitize their businesses faster. Before, they used to have a plan, a 5 to 10-year plan. They need to get it done in 3 years. And how do they go and work in this new way of work? I think because of the pandemic, it's not a one-time thing that's going to happen. People are going to return to work and things are going to change. There are organizations and companies that are saying, you know what? We're going to become an out-of-office workspace. And how do we address the people? How do we make sure people are not overworked and overstressed? How do I know that our customers are getting continued value where now your workforce is actually distributed over time? We see our competitors, all the vendor landscapes, they're really around consolidation, right? And when I look at M&A, I look at technologies that customers are saying we need to have, or, we can build it organically, but I need to have it now versus 18 months from now when I build it organically. So we're starting to see a balance between companies to make their decision. Am I going to do it organically or am I going to do it through acquisition? 9 times out of 10, when it is something that's critical that our customers want, then we start looking at acquisitions and we look at things. Now, one thing that's great about us is that we have access to a whole bunch of open source communities where we're seeing new technology. We're seeing great innovations that are actually happening. And those are technologies that either we're going to put into our fold. I think there was a question about, should we partner with them as a technology? There's an opportunity for us to partner with different vendors. And the last thing I would mention is that Again, if you are a company looking to sell, don't think of it as a single solution. Think of it how it looks holistically outside of the core capabilities that you have. I agree with all, be focused on the things that you're strong at, but see where are the affinities of other technologies that can be working together to go and solve the problem holistically.